Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel when every fairy tale comes true. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave him laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all.
Get yourself together before it's too late.
Why is that music still playing? It must be Dave's fault. That's what it must be. I have no idea. Do you hear music, Dave? Yeah.
Get yourself together before it's too late.
New scene. Oh, for God's sakes, hold on. Why is that music still playing? It must be Dave's fault. That's what it must be. Do I have something on? I'm going to start this thing over again. Why do I hear my echo? Do you hear music, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Get yourself together before it's too late.
It just keeps repeating. It's on a loop.
New scene. Oh, for God's sakes, hold on. Why is that music still playing?
This is crazy.
It must be Dave's fault. That's what it must be.
I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going on.
Again.
Are you with me, Dave? Are you live or are you Memorex?
Do you hear music, Dave?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Why is this music playing?
It just keeps repeating. It's on a loop.
New scene. Oh, for God's sakes, hold on. Why is that music still playing?
This is crazy.
It must be Dave's fault. That's what it must be.
What's this loop business? I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going on.
Again.
Are you with me, Dave? Are you live or are you Memorex?
Do you hear music, Dave?
Oh, okay. Playthrough. All right. It's YouTube. It's YouTube. Jesus Christ.
Did you ever notice, Brian? I say something.
Shit.
It's never you. You know who else? It's
That
never,
one
it
was
reminds-
me. That one was
No,
me.
you know what it reminds me of? It's never you. It's YouTube. It's me. It's barometric pressure. It's the angels on the head of a pin. You know what it reminds me of? There's a gentleman we're going to talk a lot tonight, Donald Trump. It never seems to be Donald Trump's fault either. But, you know, it's, I don't know. I don't want to insult you right away, but let's just say that working with you is working with someone who really rhymes with bucks, mucks, clucks, ducks. That's all. So what's up, Bri?
What's up? Man, I had a long week of work. I haven't had one of these weeks in a long time. You know, most teachers work very hard during the week, but this one I was doing a lot of after-school things. And, you know, I was burning the candle at both ends, that kind of thing. I had somebody come in and do
Wait a
some
minute,
work on the
I'm
house
sorry,
today.
Brian. Brian. I'm sorry. I apologize. I wasn't listening. Did you say you were burning a candle out your end? What's going on?
No. There goes
I don't
that
know. I didn't.
sick mind of yours. No, we did some fireplace work done today. We had a lot of crap done. Anyway, long story short, it was it was one of these weeks where
Oh, sorry.
you'd have to be around like 18 years old to deal with the week, and I was just burnt out from it. And
Brian, why don't you tell people how long it's been since you've been 18?
for Christ's sake, I don't know.
Use some math.
43 years.
43 years. That makes you, whatever 43 plus 18 is. Yeah,
That's and I'm going to be
catching up to-
62 soon, so
yeah, you're catching
whatever.
up.
It's what's the difference between 57 and 62 and whatever? Who gives a shit anymore?
Well, the only number that's really bad in the English language, there is one. 45 is bad.
Yeah, he really is. And that's going to be a big topic today because it's his tentacles that are
Oh, I like that. And that's exactly.
bothering me. And Dave, I've got a host of things.
But you always mess them up. So let's just talk for a while and then put them on.
Yeah, well, there's
I
a
like
lot
the- I like
going
the-
on.
Yeah, we haven't talked at
Not
all.
that there hasn't been anything before each week, but this week's been a doozy.
Well, I think one of the things is that after Friday, I think anybody in America who isn't a Republican, and by Republican, again, I'm going to refer to them as Trump publicans, because there are still some Republicans around. Anyone who's not believes that this country, given after Friday, what the Republican National Committee came out with, if there's any hope for reuniting, reconciliation, any kind of dialogue, any kind of goodness emanating from those, again, let me clarify, certainly it was as Mr. Trump, although he was not there, it was as coming from his mouth. We're just simply living in la la land ourselves. And, I mean, come on, let's just start there. And Brian, your reaction, you've heard it, we've all heard it, right? The term, okay? Now, I've watched video, I've seen pictures, it's been on since January 6th. That's a year, more than a year and a month now. And never once did I see anything that vaguely remembers or vaguely should make you remember or vaguely resembles, quote, legitimate political discourse. To me, okay, I'll be honest. I started out thinking, okay, first of all, Trump won't win the primary, and he did. Okay. Then Trump won't win the general election. Okay, he did. Well, okay, that's just a fluke. It doesn't matter whether Donald Trump lives, dies, goes to prison, is taken away with ET and the other extraterrestrials. The Republican Party is now, speaks as Donald Trump, thinks as Donald Trump. And as I've said numerous occasions, I've never met anybody even near power that is as un-American, unpatriotic as Donald Trump. So we'll come back to that. But what do you think about it? I mean, did you listen to those words? And how do they affect you? Legitimate political discourse.
Yeah, I actually, if I may, Dave, I want to post.
Oh, sure.
I think I have that here somewhere. I mean, I wanted to. I've got so many things from that. Yeah. Okay. Let's show that so everybody can kind of see. I know everybody's kind of heard of it,
Right.
But I think it would be best if we just did.
Ladies and gentlemen,
look at this shit.
If something happens, we'll be back in a couple of hours.
Yeah, let me first of all, let's make sure that we get some overlays in here with you and me, Dave, because we need the commentary as it goes by. I mean, really, really do. I mean, it's,
well, and
I mean, some people would say like just leave that up there and make the. Oh, for Christ's sake, I don't mind putting one of you, Dave, but not the other.
No, but actually, many people I think in our audience would prefer two of me to two of you, or one of you and one of me.
You're getting like Donald Trump now. All right.
I've always been like Donald Trump. Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
So let's take
look.
a gander
Go
at
ahead.
this. Okay.
All right. So of course the reason they did it was twofold, probably. I can't get inside the mind of crazy people. I try. One is to appease the great Donald, right, who now is still their leader, still the front runner. I hesitate to say it, but I'm going to say it tonight. There is no chance of him running for president of the United States. None. I'm not convinced that he will fall.
Well, that's what Hal Sparks has been saying.
Some way between now. So, but now, if you look at that was one, and the other was to rebuke two people. And now remember, Liz Cheney comes from a political family. Her father.
I'm going to stop you right there for 1 second, Dave. Folks, with the comments, I'm not going to post them right now because I want to concentrate on what Dave's saying and what this page is saying. We'll get back to the comments. Okay.
But anyway, what happens is with Liz and with Adam, right now, you can say they are American heroes. All right. One of my definitions of an American hero is that they have to be an American. So that leaves Donald Trump out. He's not an American. I mean, I'm talking about.
And they have to face something that's very intimidating.
And look, it is now, but again, now this is me talking about them as an American. Politically, I'm an uber liberal, and Liz Cheney is an uber conservative. Now, what I find so bizarre is Donald Trump has no political leanings one way or the other. Donald Trump is a party of one. If it benefits Donald Trump, it's good for everyone else. But you had Liz Cheney, who's worked tirelessly for the Republican Party. And remember, she currently holds the most conservative voting record of any member of the House. So what you've done, or what they've done, is said, okay, that doesn't amount to anything.
That's right. It does not amount to anything.
Anything. We're now a new party. And Mr. Trump will play the tune. But, then I hesitate to say that, Brian. I've been talking to people down here. I'm not so sure Mr. Trump is playing the tune. I think what's happening is he gave them carte blanche to do what they really wanted to do under the cover of being president of the United States. I mean, it wasn't a collusion or anything. Here he comes along. He said everything they wanted to say. Look at what they've been doing. You've pointed out, others have pointed out since Reagan, but if not since, you could go back further.
Right, but there is a political storm at the grassroots level. You've got, your neighbor with the pickup truck, and there are plenty of them. So now they've hyped them up so much, they're in a frenzy that, like I say, it's a perfect storm. You have whether your hypothesis is correct or not, it almost doesn't matter because everything's leading toward what direction is that this democracy is now under the threat of having an autocracy and the minority take over the majority.
Correct. So this did nothing, as I say, except, I liked it. It said legitimate political discourse. Well, it did legitimize something to me. It legitimized that the Republican Party, and remember, this is a national committee. This is who kind of selects the presidents, for them, determines everything for the country. This is the putrid poobobs of republicanism making this decision. Now, we don't know whether there were dissenting votes, but there were enough votes to bring it out and say this. What it legitimizes to me that they are an illegitimate party if a political party is supposed to have any concern for America or its people. That's all.
It's interesting that you're saying that. It's because you're seeing this, as I said, the tentacles, it's reaching everywhere. Now, people might disagree with me with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing with the judge
it's
there.
Brian.
Schrader, you can see how they're doing the same thing. I mean, we all know that Kyle, at least I know in my mind, in my heart, so to speak, that Kyle Rittenhouse was guilty of murder twice over. And in my mind, the judge was putting his fingers on the scale. And this is essentially what the Republicans are doing with voting and just about everything. So, again, he's got plenty of judges that are behind him. He had some people in the military that were behind him. He's got as you said, 74 million people. And of those 74 million, you probably get about 30 of them that are willing to do this January 6th thing. And then all of a sudden he comes out, and if you look at the screen here, it says, of course, he would consider to pardon those convicted for January 6th. Most of them he said, or I forget what he said, but some of them.
Yes.
But what it really means, look, if he can pardon Mike Pence and every schmuck that comes down the road, except for Michael Cohen, he'll do it for everyone.
He would have if Michael had kind of stayed there.
Roger Stone. I only have to say Roger Stone, right? I mean,
Right.
how many times can you be pissed off before your heart comes out of your throat?
Well, you better prepare for more, because let's throw some cliches around tonight. What's the saying? It's always darkest before the dawn. Well, if that's true, we're not even the darkest part, because dawn's a long,
let's
long way away.
look, because I want to show you everybody the quick Pence comment. Everybody's seen this, but show a sentence of it, and I want you to see Steve Bannon's reply on Twitter to this. It was fucking sickening. All right, so yeah, let's go with Pence here, and hopefully everybody can see the screen. Whoopsie daisy. There's your boy, Mike.
Mr. Mike, yep.
Mike Dents, as Gary used to say, appropriately said. Mike Dents. Okay, here we go.
Can't hear him, Brian.
Oh, sorry. Let's do that again with... Loop back. Okay, this one should go. Hold on. If you can hear it, just tell me.
President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election.
In a speech to the Conservative Federalist Society Friday, former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence offered a forceful rebuke to his former boss, Donald Trump, saying Trump was wrong to suggest that Pence could have taken action to reverse the outcome of the 2020 presidential election.
Now, we'll get to that in a second, and why he did this, why he waited so long, Dave. But I do want to, while we have it here, I do want to show you Bannon's reply, okay? So I hope all the volume is up on this. Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, here we go.
Pence, you're gonna carry this thing eventually to your grave, okay? Because it is a mark of shame, and you are a stone cold coward, Boris Epstein. We're going to start with numbers and analysis, and then this thing broke this afternoon. My head's blown up. So Boris, you got to help me out here, brother. I can't take Pence, and I can't take Pence and Mark Short and all these Koch guys up there ratting out Trump up on Capitol Hill right now.
All right, let's go back to correct video, audio. All right, Dave.
All right, so let's go Bannon back to Pence. All right, so Steve Bannon, I'm still not sure what his overall objective is, but those who have been close to him at some point, if there are such things, is that he is basically a rarity in today's politics. He's a right-wing anarchist. And by anarchist, he just wants to tear it down.
Right.
He just wants to tear the system down. Now, he found someone willing to do that, advising Trump. But like everything else, Trump has a falling out, and then they come back. I would say Trump needs Bannon. Bannon needs Trump. Very much like Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, those guys need each other. But I had to laugh, or not laugh. It's what do you do? Laugh, cry? I don't know. He says mark of shame, and I will say this with as much certainty as I can muster. One of the problems with the Donald Trump and the Trumppublicans, shame has no meaning in their world, in their personal world. There's nothing that he could do that would shame.
And don't you think that's going to filter down instead of?
Well, here's what I don't know. We all have favorite writers, right? Or political writers that we value. And I think one of the smartest people in government, as far as I'm concerned, is Robert Reich, who I really think is a good progressive type guy. worked the Clinton administration, and I just finished his book tonight called The Common Good. And he said, one of the things that is wrong with America is we have a misplaced idea of honor and shame. And I agree with that. Donald Trump deserves no honors, yet people like Donald Trump and others get honors. And the people who need shame get no shame. So the idea of this is for Bannon to say about what Pence said. Now, I've also said that Mike Pence was shameful for not speaking out earlier. So shame does apply to Mike Pence. But this would be the one time that maybe the word shame, since he's been vice president, doesn't apply to him, right? So, again, anyone who pays any attention to what Steve Bannon says in the realm of believability is wrong. But I'm going to guess, Brian. No, I know that. I understand that. Anarchists, I'm playing with the word, Trev. You're right. But to me, an anarchist is just someone who wants to take the government down. That's what I'm using it for. Is that technically the definition? No. But I also get pissed because most times leftists are the anarchists. Antifa, they're not anarchists. I mean, right, it's very hard to do that. So, yes, I apologize for not doing the exact meaning of the word, but it wasn't fake news. I think it was just a way of shortening, directing the feeling that Bannon wants to take it down and has nothing to put in its place that we know of.
So he's saying they're nihilists.
Yeah, I would agree. Trev, technically, I'm the Trump party, but I'm not so sure about, I wasn't speaking of the party, I was speaking about Bannon himself. So I'm not real sure where he fits in.
Yeah, I would agree with Trev on that one. They are nihilists.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's true. I mean, nihilist is a good definition. It means nothing. The interesting thing to me about Bannon is, if you in the beginning when he appeared seemingly out of nowhere, but that's not true. If you were following Breitbart, he was involved with Breitbart for a long time. In fact, he was their managing editor when he emerged with the Trump whatever that was. And but of course, people rush to everybody goes like tomorrow. If you become famous, everybody's going to rush out to Joey, your former student, and your roommates from everywhere. And so they got a hold of some of Bannon's roommates, college roommates, and they said, we don't know what happened. Last we knew of him, he was worshiping Bruce Springsteen and was a progressive, So, I guess he had some kind of Saul or, like conversion on the road to whatever happened there in that biblical story myth. But what it was saying is the idea that people have this conversion, whatever it was, he was converted to whatever it is he's now. But I really wish he wouldn't use mark of shame because, okay, tonight, if we're lucky, and all these views, what might we get? 100 views? I mean, not tonight live, but I mean over the week. That would be.
Yeah, we usually get 120, actually, which is double what we got 2 months ago. So
I'm not talking about that.
Good.
Do you realize how many people Bannon's remark reached? More than 120.
Oh, absolutely.
Far more. And that is the problem. And I really want our listeners tonight to do this because I'm playing with something in my mind. And when I say I'm playing with something, it doesn't mean I'm really with it yet. So I'm trying it out tonight, a theory. I believe that if you see it on YouTube or you hear it on whatever, even though it's patently, blatantly false, I still think people believe it more than they would any other way, right? More than a street corner preacher preaching it, All of a sudden, it's like, look, anybody can do what we do. Anybody can do what he does, right? Bannon, except Bannon has a larger audience and a larger platform. That does not make anything he says true. Just like anything we say on the show. Just because we say it doesn't make it true. I believe that I say things that are true, but it doesn't make it true just because I believe it. But I think this idea, and of course, maybe next week I'll go into a little bit more depth with Reich's book because I think it's something that people should read. And so I'll save some time if people don't have time to read it. But that was just interesting that he would use that word shame because what he was really talking about is the common good. And certainly, all those people, whether they were engaged in a legitimate political discourse or not, and they weren't, they had all they cared about is what they wanted. They had no concern for the common good.
Well, Trump, Dave, do you think now that, for example, that we should be very suspicious of Jim Jordan. We know that he made a phone call in the morning of January 6th. But I'm thinking now that so many of them were part of this, and you can see that in their votes.
I'm saying at least a dozen.
Okay, so at least a dozen. So don't you think, and this is a leading question, but don't you think that they're in this old expression, in for an ounce, in for a pound? Because they have no other choice. So now they're going to go all the way. So Bannon, who's been indicted, essentially, right? Because he defied a subpoena.
Right.
And the rest of them are, I mean, you assume that Merrick Garland's going to do something very quickly with some of these other ones.
Well, what he did, I mean, again, if you're a logical thinking person, two things happen. If you refuse to appear before Congress, if you're subpoenaed, the first thing we know is you've defied the law. Now, defying the law isn't always wrong. Civil rights, I defied the laws that I didn't believe in during Vietnam and some other protests. So it's in and of itself, it's not wrong to do, but it's wrong if you're doing it for protective reasons or for yourself. And
Dave, we have audio commentary. Once Sandy says that it might be best if you go straight ahead. You have to try to remember that.
No, well, you know what? I turn it this way. So which is better? You tell me.
Just, can you move? I mean, whatever you have that deeper sound like this, when you go like this, baby.
Well, I'm in there. I mean, I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But, well, is this okay? That's what I'm saying to everybody. I'm asking.
Yeah, I would probably tilt your laptop camera down a little bit if you do that, because then I can't get...
Yeah, I know. I'll do that. Hold on here.
Yeah, much better. And then just lean forward.
I will.
We'll both try that, and maybe...
So what we have...
I'll do that too.
Mike has been a little weird recently, but let me know, everybody. Thank you, Sandy, for letting me know. The idea is...
Yeah, we're all on the same team here. If the show goes poorly, it's your fault too, folks. You're in with this. I'm not getting paid. You're not getting paid. We're together.
Well, and the other thing is, which is interesting, again, we're not ducking responsibility, but it's very hard. And, I pick on Brian, but Brian's doing 3 things or 4 things or 5 things, which makes it tough. I'm doing 2, which is trying to speak and think about what I'm talking about. That's enough for me. And then you lean back or you did this. So, yeah, just point it out whenever it's there. So we're back to this idea, which I just want to hammer one more time, of shame and honor. And Bannon, we don't know. Somebody just put up there, I forget who.
And shame's a good thing. I mean, that it's a good thing.
Genius. And what is scary is, I don't know if Bannon. I mean, I'm not disputing it. I mean, I really don't know. I go back and forth with so many of these guys. Bannon, I thought he was the force behind Trump at one point. Apparently, he wasn't. So I was wrong about that. But really, it's all about who believes you.
Dave, right? Sandy did something nice for you.
Oh, no. I have a blue Yeti. It's fine. I mean, I'll take a road.
Yeti? Who are you, Cartman?
Yeah, I said
Yeti.
I got it from you. Thank you for recognizing the South Park reference.
And by the way, Dave, as old as Dave and I are, Dave watches South Park every once in a while too. So
yeah, and The Simpsons, and I'm looking forward to Return of Beavis and Butthead.
Right.
But back to this. Again, with this idea of, I hate to harm the common good, but whenever you speak, Brian, and you, me, anyone, we're not just speaking for ourselves, right? We should keep in mind the truth, obviously, but also we're affecting others. And the higher up you go, you affect more people. And Bannon is not the president, not even an elected official, but he certainly has a lot of weight. And if you listen to him, he can be very convincing, right?
If you care for me.
Yeah, it's Brian, Trev. It's always Brian.
I don't know. I'm going to lower mine, because I was redlining here, because I'm closer to the...
Well, because he just, he sabotages.
Because it's not just the controls; it's the fact the distance from your.
Oh, I know. I'm right on top of it now.
So I've got to be careful. It sounds better when it's closer, but you have to be careful. And I wasn't, so who cares?
Well, gee.
But we'll get there, because folks, you're on our team.
Yeah. And our team's not Steve Bannon's team or Donald Trump's team. So where do we go from here, right? So you've got the Republican Party. We know where Trump is. And I liked when you said you said tentacles, right? Because
Right,
we
tentacles.
want to look at. So let's look at the tentacles of Donald Trump this week. He did not have a rally, correct?
Correct. He did not have a rally.
Okay.
Don't forget, he has to pay for those rallies, and that's
I
another
know.
thing too.
He did not hold any kind of press conference or anything, but yet he dominated the news in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. He dominated this story, which to me was the. Okay, how was this? When historians look back in this period of history, and they will, we never know. Okay, this is the moment. This is the moment. This is the moment. We have no idea when the moment comes. But I do think this will be one of the big moments. If the Republicans do capture the country, we do become authoritarian or fascist. We won't all go there, so we'll look at that as the moment when they came out, if you will. If we can stop them, it was Brian, always Brian's fault. The idea was that. Or if we are able to stop them, this may be I hope this would serve as a rallying cry to anyone who thought they're not the enemy and they can be done. So let's talk about those tentacles for a minute. So, of course, you've already got the first tentacle. Mr. Pence comes out. Now, let's look at this, Brian. And again, I'd like people to comment on this. There's an old saying, better late than never, right?
An early bird gets the worm.
And there's another side of that. Which is not quite as much, but too late to matter. And I'm afraid with Mr. Pence here, it may be too late to matter. He had his opportunity the day that Donald Trump authorized, you can cut it any way you want, but if I were Mike Pence, I would say it this way, the day Donald Trump authorized hoodlums to come up and kill me. Now, if Mike took it any other way, I'm sorry, because there's something wrong with Mike. Because that was exactly what happened. Now, I don't have insights.
Do you think they're afraid of pressuring Pence even more now, like we saw with Bannon, because they're afraid that Pence will cut and run and go to the other side?
Now, it's interesting you bring that up. So 2 things I want to talk about Pence, and then we'll leave Michael and listen.
Because he could end up being a very interesting character for history if things play out the way they may.
No question. Now, first of all, let's look at who Mike Pence is. Is he a Republican? Absolutely. Is he conservative? Yes. Is he a religious person in his mind? Yes. Does he sit in a room alone with women who aren't his wife? No. So, he's like the ultimate,
does he
right?
wish?
I don't know about that. You can't go inside his mind. Jimmy Carter lusted in his heart, remember? But the idea of it is, he is,
getting hot in here.
You got Liz Cheney, right, who's an ultimate conservative. You've got Mike Pence, but Donald Trump has wiped them clean. So why did Pence come out? A couple pretty astute columnists, and we don't know. He didn't announce why he came out. They felt that this was the moment when Mike Pence feels now, why, I don't know, whether he has inside information or whether somebody's leaking it to him or whatever, that he feels Donald Trump is done. So if Donald Trump is done, that opens up a pathway for him. Normal pathway, right?
Are we buffering right now? I don't know. I don't want to do a speed test, but get this in before the dreaded buffering. I did check the speed before we came on, and I was in the download of 900s and the upload of 40, so it looks good.
Well, we'll see. Okay, so we'll rush. We'll talk about that now. The idea, Brian,
Dave can do that well too, by the way.
Oh, I can do fast.
He's at 78 RPM.
Mr. Pence. It would be interesting though, Brian. Why now? Okay, why not before? Now, again, as I said, no inside sources, but I did talk to someone who is best friends with the wife of one of the. He was actually assigned to Pence's security that day. Okay,
this is like a 3rd degree or 4th degree of Mike Pence.
Anyway, and here's what she said. He said. So she said. He said. She said. She said that Mr. Pence was concerned. He refused to go to the car. That's why he stayed in the building. He thought there would be somebody out there taking him out, and he felt safer in the building with his entourage locked in a room.
Yeah, at the time, he didn't know what way to go, if you think about it.
And there you are. So certainly it was, but I really, again, there's some things that baffle me. One is, if I were Mike Pence, maybe it'll turn out good. Maybe he will be the president of the United States if that's what he wants. But it's sure a circuitous, dangerous route to go. And I'm not sure, wow, I hate to say this, but I'm not sure that Mr. Pence would survive a campaign with Donald Trump supporters out there. I think he'd be
Right. I mean, he literally would be risking he would probably be dead.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, because especially
Especially because they're in a crowd. That mob behavior.
The other thing that's going to happen is, right now it's Trump and your favorite Florida governor, as the front runner. But that, it's a long way from now to 2024.
Yeah, can we even get to 2023? I mean, all
of that.
Through 2022.
But my thing, but right now, there, you know how many people there are probably right now? I don't know. I'm making this up. Last time there was an open presidential primary in the Republican Party, 17 candidates emerged. I see no reason why it would be less this time if Trump's not there, right? Nobody's going to defer to DeSantis or anyone else. They're going to fight for it. So, does Pence believe that he has a chance? Does he believe that coming clean? Now, the tentacles also reached out. I'm going to use your word. The tentacles also reached out to Mitt Romney. And did you see what Mitt said?
Mitt said that his underwear is too tight.
No, close. No.
No, I think he defended those two.
Defended which two?
Kinzinger and...
Yes, he did. And his quote was this. Listen to what word he used. Now, remember, what word did Bannon use? SH word? SH.
He said he's a
rhymes
coward.
Rhymes with fame.
Shame. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what he used. He said it was a mark of shame what Pence didn't do and then did do to Well, Mr.
He's going to take it to his grave. I mean, everybody just loves to say that phrase. Well, just take it to your grave if you do that. I'll take it to my grave. Oh, my God.
Well, Senator Romney...
always had to put that stamp on at the end. I'll take it to your grave.
Mitt Romney, I think Mitt Romney's better as a loser. And when I say that, I thought one of his most gracious speech was when he got defeated by Obama. And that's hard to lose a presidency. And Mitt Romney, I said, in that campaign, I looked at him and I said, man, because my wife Judy and I were working for Obama. I didn't feel sorry for him because I didn't want him to be president, but I did think it was a gracious speech. And I said, I would hear some people when he was governor of Massachusetts, and his run as a candidate was nothing like his governing in Massachusetts. You realize Massachusetts was the first state to have like a form of affordable care before it was a word.
Right. That I did know.
Their education system is habitually ranked 1 or 2 when he was there, right? Certainly not the things we see from a normal Republican, but because of the right, he went further and further to the right. But at the end, he comes out. So he says basically, shame. So I want to read this because I want to get exact. Shame falls on a party that would censure persons of conscience who seek the truth in the face of vitriol. Now, again, that's good. Okay, right? In other words, he's attacking the Republican National Committee, who once endorsed him for president. Right? And he goes on to says honor. Now, there's that other word again. Honor, shame, and honor. He's got honor. Honor attaches to Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger for seeking truth, even when doing so comes at great personal cost. And remember, I did say earlier, and I'm not saying that Romney affirms what I said, but I said I do consider them heroes of the moment. But I also consider Mr. Romney a hero of the moment. Why? What? Right, kinky streets. I agree. Romney made a lot of mistakes. I'm not just saying this, but where was Mr. Romney before all this? Then we look at another former Republican maverick hero, John McCain. John McCain had many glorious moments, not the least of which was, his service to Vietnam and his imprisonment. Mr. Trump called that, he didn't like it because he considered him a loser for that. I think one of Mr. McCain's biggest moments occurred, I don't know if you remember, I think it was that wasn't his state. It was out west somewhere. And a woman stood up, it was like a town hall, right. And she started on Obama, and, he's a Muslim and all this. And he said, no, ma'am, you're wrong. Mr. Obama and I disagree on many, many things, but he's a good man, he's a good American, and he's not, a Muslim. And now that didn't cost Mr. McCain the election. Sarah Palin didn't help him any. But again, yes, a moment. And the other one, great one, was when he got off his deathbed, literally, and came in and voted, did the deciding vote not to carve out the Affordable Care Act. So now, but then it has other tentacles. Do you know, Brian? Again, when I say this, I don't expect you to know, but I'm just asking. So I'm kind of asking. Do you know who the chairperson of the Republican National Committee is? Does anybody? Any idea?
The one that was, it was a
Right
woman.
now.
I know that.
It is a woman.
I saw her speech.
Her name is Ronna McDaniel, but that's not her real name. That's not the name she used for years. Her name was Ronna Romney McDaniel. She is a Romney.
Really?
Yes. Now, you say, well, why did she drop the Romney thing? Because, supposedly, and I don't know why this wouldn't be true, Donald Trump said drop the name. So
Right, I remember that now. Yes.
Yes. So she put Donald Trump ahead of her own family. Well, okay, how's that working out for you now? And, I'd feel okay if we could stop there. But Trump was everywhere this week, Brian. He also, obviously, was involved in a case in New York City. And that case involves Stormy Daniels and Michael Avenatti.
Well, Avenatti blow it, I'll tell you.
Well, we talked last night, last time, mentioned this briefly, and you were honest. You said at one point you kind of thought, oh, maybe him.
Yeah, because he's the guy. He had balls.
Yeah, a lot of people did. Certainly, I blew it on Trump, but Avenatti, there was just something that rubbed me the wrong way. So basically, the jury found in favor of Miss Daniels, and she said that basically, the figures, I think they were this. She was going to get an $800,000 advance for her book, right, before sales. Because that's nothing. It would sell, that would make that in a couple of weeks back. And Mr. Avenatti actually forged documents, misrepresented, and walked away with $300,000 of that $800,000. Now, he was entitled to some, but certainly not that. And of course, he did what is a classic no-no. Every lawyer I've ever encountered when I was a reporter said, don't ever defend yourself. Don't ever do it. He's done it now twice. He's lost both times. And I think sum total now he's facing 2 years is automatic. He'll get 2 years in prison automatically in this case, no matter what. It's like there's a clause like there is in, with use of a gun, something, I forget exactly the details, but I think he's facing now something like 60 years in prison for the two cases that he's lost. And there's still another one coming up, right? So, it's a little scary though. And that taught us something, or I hope it taught us something. And this is the problem when you're in this kind of war, Brian. The old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But that's not always true, right? It's just not always true. Certainly in Avenatti's case, it looked like there's the guy that could take on Donald Trump, right? Mm-hmm. And
because he could get nasty, and there was nobody who had any balls and could be nasty in the Democratic Party.
That is
like
true.
Chuck Schumer, he just doesn't have strength.
I understand that, but the idea of it is that thank God we didn't, because you imagine, by the time we got there, and suddenly he's president. I don't even know that he could have won. We have no idea, but it's a what if. But so there's Trump up there, right? Now, also, the one that I found the most interesting was last week. I really thought I blew it because remember I said Tom Brady retired right before we went on the show, and then he didn't, and then he did. Okay, so I guess I was what would I say redeemed? Not that, but I mean at that point. Well, there was a guy named hold on a second. Oh shit, I don't have his name. The column. I hate that when I don't write down. It's an NBC. Anyway, they did a story on the connections between Donald Trump and Tom Brady. And do you know what they are? Do you remember that? It made big news at one point. No. Okay, that's fine. What happened was there's a picture that circulated since it was taken of Brady after a game, and he's at the locker, right? And behind him, of course, the locker's open, and there's a Trump hat.
MAGA hat?
Make America Great. And man, people came after him for that or supported him for that, right? Now, this column I thought was very fair because Tom Brady he'll definitely be in the consideration forever in the talk of the greatest of all time in terms of his record. In terms of his personalities, maybe not so much. And he's one of those people, very controversial, right? In terms of, but this columnist said, and I believe it to be true as you look at it, he was never, ever, ever a Donald Trump supporter. In fact, Brady did not even put that cap in his locker. Now, it wasn't a setup, right? It wasn't a setup, but the owner of the New England Patriots, who is actually a very strong supporter, Robert Kraft, of Democratic causes, he is also a friend of Donald Trump's. And the reason he said he is a friend of Donald Trump's, now we have to take him at face values, when he was in a pretty, as rich people are, Kraft was in a few years ago, was in a pretty harshly contested divorce. Right. And Trump would call him and check on him, make sure he's okay. Well, Trump has experience in that kind of thing, right? So let's not make a hero out of him. And it was just such an odd story because I couldn't figure out, Trump. Who else has Trump done that for? But anyway, Kraft was there. Now, Brady refused to go to the White House, and of course there was a link there that he never went to the White House, right? Never said anything about Donald Trump, but because Trump is this kind of thing that is attractive, repulsive, whatever. MAGA people, that's great. We hate him and he just was really, in that sense, apolitical. The only person who spoke was his wife, and she was asked by reporters, based on that closeness, I think the question was, well, I guess it was to both of them. Did you vote? Meaning, did the Bradys vote for Donald Trump? And she said, absolutely not. Now, and with kind of with vitriol in her voice, not something you would just deny. So I've said all along, and again, not that I look to reaffirm, Donald Trump has a rare ability to seriously corrupt everything around him. Just the mere fact, I think if you breathe his air, or I don't know what does it. He also was in the news down here, Trump, which also will tie into the fact that he's a criminal. As everyone in America is aware, he opened a hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue, and of course put his name up there, right? And the day he refused to give up that hotel, he was guilty of, in violation of the Emoluments Clause, which is a big fancy word that I didn't know before that came up, is basically presidents are not to make any money or receive gifts for the fact of being president. Now, they're looking at records, and a room that, first of all, they were expensive rooms, but D.C. is expensive. So, if somebody hears this from some city where, you can get a motel for $50, it doesn't happen to D.C. And the suites are more. But basically, that I would assume those rates would run based on the Willard, which is across the street, probably somewhere between $650 to $1,200 a night, and then suites up to whatever. Well, the bills showed $900, for a $650 room. So he was gouging, and people were paying it. What for? For access, right?
Paying for it, but writing it off somehow. And
well, of course. I mean, it's not. But
they weren't really paying much of it.
No. But think about that. So I mean, that's like double corruption, right? The president's not supposed to have that. He's certainly. You're not going to tell me if somebody, or maybe even double, say you they did have a $1,200 room and you pay $2,400. You're going to want something for that room. And it's not a bar of Trump soap, right? Which, as a funny aside, I don't know if anybody else listening audience has done that. I was in there a couple of times because I just wanted to see it. And actually, anyone who's listening tonight who visits D.C., don't go up the Washington Monument unless you've never been. That's fine. The best view in Washington, D.C. is at the top of Trump Tower, but it's not really Trump Tower. That was the old postal building, and they have a clock tower up top, and it's much wider and much more open than the monument, and you can go up there, and it's not part. When the hotel was to be sold, the provision was that the National Park Service would continue to have that, no matter who bought it. So it didn't matter if it was Trump or anyone else. So you can go up there. But one of the things, and this wasn't planned by Trump, it's just the way it worked out. When your elevator stopped at the top floor, well, probably was planned by him, you got off and you walked down a hallway, right? And you go right into the, well, it wasn't open, you can't jump out of it, but, an area where you could you could look. And to the left was the Donald Trump International gift shop, or one of many. And if you can imagine an item, it was there and it had Trump's name on it. Trump candies, Trump underwear, Trump bathrobes, and I just always thought it was fun. So I'd go in there and mess with it sometimes. I didn't do anything, but, just move it around, whatever. But so that was in violation of that. Now, interesting enough, it is a valuable property. Yes, he is, Sandy. And it looks like the people that are going to buy it are the famous, or right now it looks like it's going to be the Waldorf Astoria in New York. The company that has that is going to buy it. Now, I'll be interested, will they name it Waldorf Astoria, D.C.? They certainly won't keep the Trump name. So that was that story going on. You got Brady, you've got Stormy Daniels, you've got Mike Pence, you've got Mitt Romney, you've got Republican Committee, and here we go. Now, my question to you, Brian, and again, all my questions to you, I'd love to see anybody respond to them. I don't want to make it a leading question, okay? Do you think it really matters whether Donald Trump runs or not, except the fact of keeping Trump out is important? So what I'm saying is, does it really change the political nature of the Republican Party if somebody other than Donald Trump is elected? And if so, why and how much? What do you think?
Okay, first of all, I'm not an expert at this.
Oh, no, neither am
I was thinking today, Dave, about questions kind of like that. And, I think it is important to say you don't know when you don't know. My guess is,
of course,
I would just say this, just the fact that he's out, even if it's just Trump, good, get him out. I personally think it would help a lot. Because Trump is the type of guy who, he'll do the Roy Cohn thing. He'll try to, stab you in the back. He'll put a lot of pressure. He'll dig up dirt. He'll do anything to destroy you. And I think that when you get that type of guy out of there, now, will somebody like DeSantis do the same thing? I don't know. At least I think it takes time to be that much of an asshole. And he's achieved that. I give Trump that. He's achieved the height of assholery.
I can't see anybody bigger than him.
No, there's no bigger asshole, except for maybe Roy Cohn, but he's dead. So Trump wins on that, too.
Well, while I agree with you, it's the same way I feel about Biden being president. Every day that Joe Biden's president and Donald Trump is not president, America's in better shape.
Right, although, I want to show you this for a second, Dave, if you don't mind again.
Sure.
This was something that was on, if I can find it, it was on Discord. I think it was Evil Yoda sent it to me. Was it? Yeah, and it was a good video. Because the Young Turks, and I watch the Young Turks from time to time, Dave. Not, they're all right. I mean, they make their mistakes, but in general, I'd say they're worth
very good. Yep,
checking it out. But this was the video. Let's just watch a minute if you don't mind, Dave.
That's where I was going to go.
All right, so let's
go.
Let's
put it on.
watch. Let me put it on. Okay, we're gonna have a little bit of echo if you talk. So let's just.
I'm not gonna.
Here we go.
President Joe Biden decided to speak at the National Prayer Breakfast, which of course is organized by the Nefarious Fellowship Foundation, a right-wing organization. Now, it's really important for him to do so, apparently, because how else would he find the time and an opportunity to tell Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell just how much he loves and appreciates him? Let's watch.
Mitch McConnell, Mitch, I don't want to hurt your reputation, but we really are friends. and that is not an epiphany we're having here at the moment. You've always done exactly what you've said. You're a man of your word, and you're a man of honor. Thank you for being my friend.
Yeah, 100% of my focus is on stopping this new administration. I think the best way to look at what this new administration is, the president may have won the nomination, but Bernie Sanders won the argument about what the new administration should be like. We're confronted with severe challenges from a new administration and a narrow majority of Democrats in the House and a 50-50 Senate to turn America into a socialist country.
Okay, I think that's enough right there because you see where he was going with that, Dave. Let's go back to the regular screen and. Okay. That's why I think by the way, thank you, Evil Yoda, for showing that one. That was a good video, But that's why I think those of us on the very far left, which is no problem with me, have to understand that they see people like Biden, as a socialist. And even if they don't, and they're just playing that game, which he does, McConnell, you have to treat it as such because this is the way people think. I mean, all I have to do is walk down the hall of my school and talk with somebody, and that's what you'll get. They'll call me a socialist, which I kind of am in a certain way, but
so is every American. Okay,
right.
if they drive on the highways, unless they call up and say, "Don't come, firemen, I want my house to burn down." So it's just these words, boogeyman words, right? And yes, I want to speak to that. So I think there are a couple of things to look at there. First of all, the Young Turks have an agenda, right? They do. They're leftists. They're excellent at what they do. They're entertaining. I think they're right on. But again, if you're going to watch it, even if you lean that way, which I lean way that way, you have to remember that they do have an agenda. Now, I find it interesting, the power, they talk about the power of video versus the spoken word.
Right.
And I read it before I saw it, right? And the way it read is just cold words, right? And it really, really, it just bothered me because why would Joe Biden said what he said, right? Now, as I watched it before, and I watched it again, now I'm just going to speculate here. It wasn't successful, whatever he was trying to do, okay? But did you notice his body language and the laugh? And when he said, I want to damage your reputation, but you are a friend of mine. So that could have been a subtle dig, or he could really believe it. It's a whole different world. We don't know. We do know that it fell flat, whatever he was trying to do. Now, the other thing is maybe he still believes that being nice will get you somewhere.
Right.
And in the older world, I would tend to agree with that. As you know, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but for 15 years, I was a guy who went to battle the Board of Education at the school where we worked, right? And I was always very civil to them, in the terms of that, because we're using cliches again. Sometimes it is true, not always, but you catch more, flies with honey. But I mean, it was calculated on my part. So I don't know if Biden genuinely feels that. If he does, sorry, Joe, that ship has sailed. Or if he was trying to set something up. The other thing is, I'm not, conspiracy theorist, but I might as well say this. We don't know what's going on between Biden and McConnell. We just know what they speak publicly about, and they posture and they do. But I would not trust Mr. McConnell, and I would not call him.
Well, Biden did say I would trust him.
Yeah, that's where Mr. Biden and I.
I think that's what bothered me the most. I'm saying he's a friend, and it's okay, but saying that you trust this guy.
And in my Twitter feed, Democracy in Danger, I said I might trust him as a turtle, but I don't trust him as a human being, which is kind of taking the fun. I mean, Trump did something else. He kind of took the fun out of alliterative names or describing people because he just did it so much and so pejoratively. But that used to be kind of a sign of you're poking fun at him to deflate the ego, right? But Trump didn't do it that way. He did it to, just evil intent again, just to belittle them.
Dave, you can come a little bit closer to the mic.
I will. So what happens is, you get this thing now where unless Biden is playing what do they say, 9-level chess or whatever, I don't think that helped him at all, in his cause. But I don't know that. So again, I'm going to wait, and we have to wait and see what happens. I think McConnell, obviously, I don't think I'll go this far. I guarantee you, as much as I can guarantee something I don't know, that Mitch McConnell likes Joe Biden better than he likes Donald Trump. I guarantee you that, no question. But which one can he use for his own power better? Donald Trump, of course.
Right.
Because Donald Trump, he claimed Donald Trump, I've never been used. Mitch played him like a goddamn violin, right? In terms of using what he needed to get him to maintain the power. Now, whether Mitch is a true believer or not, I do not know. I know that Mitch likes power. I will quote my daughter-in-law, who used to be pretty apolitical and now is a fair radical. She said, no matter how you feel about Mitch McConnell, he will go down as one of the 4 or 5 top users of power in his position in American history. Because look at how he does it when he's been out of power, when the party's been out of power. Look at what he's done in power. Nobody else has ever done, been able to delay a Supreme Court decision. And he certainly has no problem with saying today is Friday and tomorrow saying yesterday was Tuesday and the next day saying Thursday last week, talking about the same day. He is not truthful. So how could you be, trusting if you're not truthful? Trust begins with truth.
Dave, can I quickly show you
Sure.
a few other things, some positive ones, just a little thing, just like power to the people. We know that, I guess it was Lindsey Graham who was accosted by some right-wing people and showed what a candy ass he was. But here is something, you may have seen this one. This is one that, again, I get picked up on Twitter. But this is Veg. I will switch it. Veg had an interesting video dealing with ham bone and stuff like that. Yeah, let's watch this one here. Let me see if I can get this set up. I'm just checking out this. Okay, so your boy, Youngins.
My governor, yes.
He's in Arlington. He's probably 2 miles away. You've probably been in this store, Dave.
No, I haven't. I know where it is, but I've not been in it. So yes, no, it's where I live.
All right. Well, then it's your town.
It is my town. Arlington is where I live.
All right. Let me just do this real quick. Boop. My computer is beginning to make sounds, and that's never good. The fan's on, so it's it's all right. We're good.
There's not too many people who run a 1955 computer from their bedroom.
This is a good one here. This one's good. All right, what's going on here?
Governor, where's your mask? We're all making choices. Yeah, look around you, Governor. You're in Alexandria. Read the room, buddy. He's my governor. Fine, just like that. I get to say what I want. I pay for my groceries.
So somebody obviously didn't like it, and she said, well, he's my governor too, I can say what I like. Good idea that she said that. So
again,
he tried to act like he didn't hear shit.
Well, what it is, that's a false courage, okay? So the Republicans, Youngkin came into Arlington, which is basically, I don't know. I've read it. I think
Dragon's Den for him.
It voted 83, 86%, usually Democrat. But of course, he's there now. Again, he apparently does not believe in masks, or at least says he doesn't and acts as if he doesn't. But I find that kind of reprehensible. I know it's very difficult. I mean, you teach with a mask on. I'm sure it's hard. I go in places with a mask on, and I think it not only affects the way you speak, I think it affects the way I hear. It's just harder, right? So maybe he would say, well, I need to speak now. I think, if, again, my night to speak about the common good, anybody who believes at all in the common good would wear a mask when they go out.
Right.
Now, let's look at that mask thing. I believe, and somebody checked me, I could be wrong, but it was in his first day. I think it was his third order. They have the equivalent of an executive order the governor can do. He reversed the mask mandate,
right,
for schools in Virginia, and immediately 7 school districts went to court to have that overturned. And the first judge ruling came on Friday, and they found that Youngkin was improper in his overturning it. So, those who believe in masks here. And again, we're a very divided state, as so many people are out there. we're not really, I mean, it's not even, 15% of the state, maybe a little bit more, 20 if you include Richmond, is liberal, but we have a lot more Democrat, but we have a lot more people that live in there, right? But the rest of the state isn't. So you're surrounded by this. So if Youngkin is overturned, then the Republicans get mad. If it's upheld, it'll go on because we don't stop now. It'll go to the Supreme Court because once you get that's the other thing that happens now. There is no what should I say? There's no we'll accept that ruling, right? I haven't seen anybody recently accept a political ruling, and sometimes the Supreme Court will take a case, sometimes it won't. But the idea of it is it's isn't over until the Supreme Court makes a decision, and that can take months. And so I'm really glad that because under the law of the United States, the most recent ruling continues until it's overturned. So if the school districts had not filed that mask order withheld, they filed it, a judge upheld it. So until another judge overturns that ruling, schools are free to order their students to wear masks.
Mm-hmm. By the way, can I mention an anecdotal story? I speak with Russians during the weekend, and
correct.
There's a Russian professor. She teaches Russian at a university in St. Petersburg, and she is one of a few who does not wear a mask, does not get vaccinated. She's 70 years old. So today...
70, you said.
70, right. And so now, again, this is just one of all of my contacts. And she said today, I'm very, very sick. I can't have the conversation. And I understood completely. And she said she got terribly sick on past Monday, went to the hospital with her husband, and there were just a ton of people in St. Petersburg in this hospital. And her husband got sick the day after. She's still sick, and she's waiting for her results of her COVID test for tomorrow. And she was kind of amazed that, I wear a mask in school. And I just wanted to make that comment because that's, you can see that people, like Ellie Bruce said, we're the same old schmuck. There are people like that in Russia. And there are people like us in Russia, too. And this kind of thing, it knows no borders. This idiocy, this type of thinking, like how could somebody, look at what the RNC chairman said that this was no insurrection here. It was just a little protest. We're okay with that. How do you believe that shit?
Because you want to.
Yeah, I mean but I'm just saying. You and I know it's
Brian.
bullshit. Everybody
I know, but I'm just saying because you want to, and they being my enemies, which are now the Trumppublicans, believe that they have the truth, and I believe bullshit. Now, it's very hard, to say.
We're screwed, Dave. Stupid's winning.
Well, I'm going to say it certainly is at this point. It appears that way. But we might not even be in. We don't have a time clock. This is not like a football game, right?
And we don't know what's going to happen.
No, what I'm not saying, it's not even we don't know. I'm just it's different. We know. The Super Bowl will be played next week, right? And the rules clearly specify, 15 minutes, half time, and then an overtime period. And now they're even debating that. But right now, it's the rules. They're a little I think both teams should have a shot at the ball, but. If the other team scores or the defense scores a touchdown.
And what happens if that happens on the Super Bowl? Oh my God!
Well, that's it. And of course, it has happened. It just happened in the Kansas
playoffs,
City
right?
Playoffs, yeah. So, but my point is, I've said it all along, and I did it as a political writer too. We tend to use the jargon of sports to cover politics, and they're not the same thing. But there is a winning and losing. But certainly, losing the Super Bowl feels bad for at least three groups of people: the players who lose, the city, because I've only been in the city once at the time that a Super Bowl was there. I was in Atlanta when they played, in the Super Bowl. And I have to say, for that week, this week now, the in-between week, I'd never seen Atlantans.
I have the Rogan stuff, and it's coming up next. I have that.
Yeah, and I really do want to get into that, Anthony. The idea of it is when you look at that, but we don't know. Again, to complete that football analogy, We don't even know how long the quarters are, right, in this. We don't know when time runs out. So we don't even know where we are in the game. But right now, Brian, I would agree with you. By all appearances, it does seem that let me rephrase that. We are definitely not ahead right now, okay?
No, we're not.
But what we don't know, now let me speculate. I'm just speculating here. Let's assume that
Come a little bit closer to the mic, Dave.
I will. Pence, Romney are onto something. By the way, right before we went on the air, I don't know if you know, Murkowski, the Alaskan senator, came out and joined Romney in criticizing the decision of the Republican National Committee.
Cool.
Now, she's in a little different position. She will win, barring anything in the last. She can run as an independent. She can run as a Republican. They seem to think that she would be winning no matter what she does. So she can be critical. Your favorite Republican Senator, Susan Collins, she's probably saying, I got to think about it. Who knows what she'll do. But so let's just assume for a moment they're onto something, and Pence is going to stand up to him, and Romney, and it's going to get like when we start talking about Rogan and Neil Young and what happened, sometimes things snowball, right? But at this point, we don't know that, so we have to assume. Then my dad always said, if you don't know, play the odds and assume what happened in the past will repeat itself unless something's new. And certainly since the day Donald Trump took office, the Republican Party has backed him. And even though he's not there, we'll continue to back him. Before we leave Donald Trump and jump right into Rogan, I would like to ask you a question, Brian. And it's, again, I don't know, you don't know. Do you think tonight, based on what you know, that Donald Trump is closer to seeing legal charges filed against him than he was, say, 2 weeks ago, a month ago?
I think so. I was thinking that, Dave, because when Vindman put his suit on, I think his way to play the game is to sue everybody, and then when he's sued, he just runs the clock. Right. And it's so frustrating. But I think at some point you've got to just keep throwing suits at him where even he gets overwhelmed.
Right.
So I think that, whether he finally gets nailed or not, I think eventually something will stick to the wall.
Not I'm very encouraged by what I'm hearing again out of the congressional January 6th investigation. Not every day, but maybe twice a week, they bring out something that wasn't really known or more so. Of course, there we have the problem because they have no enforcement arm, right? Just like when they defy defy a subpoena to testify. They can't send the sergeant at arms of the House or the Senate out to arrest. That has to come from the Department of Justice. So, then it's, and there's the question. Some say that Merrick Garland is being deferential. Some say that he's bending over backwards to appear fair.
That time should be over. We know he's going to be fair.
I'm going to take a different tactic. I think Mitch McConnell is described as looking like a turtle, but he in no way moves like a turtle. I mean, he moves quickly if he needs to, right? From all descriptions of Merrick Garland, from as an attorney, a judge, prosecutor, everything, they say he is meticulously slow. Now, if you look at his track record on the biggest cases, his biggest case was the Oklahoma City bombing. Not only did he get a conviction, they didn't even try appeal. They knew that they weren't going to win. So I think, but there is a difference. He had unlimited time. Timothy McVeigh was in prison. Everybody involved was in prison. Donald Trump is still running around out there. So Merrick, I don't know what you're doing. I'm not going to jump the bandwagon and say must do something right now. But what I'm saying is we talked about the clock earlier, Brian, and there is a clock on Donald Trump. If he gets to run, there's no question in my mind he will be the nominee.
Right.
And if
right, Dave, let's go to Rogan if you don't mind.
All right, let's go. Joe, my favorite Rogan.
Oh, here's this other asshole. Well, I was going to get to him. No. We'll go to him later. Okay, so let me see if I can get this set up again for...
Now, can I call something to everybody's attention for a moment before you do this? Mm-hmm. Look at the headline, if you will, or the underline. Joe Rogan apologizes. Now, this is going to be about using the N-word, but the same apology applied. They said he apologized for the COVID remarks, and he did not apologize. There's no way that could be interpreted as an apology. But go ahead. Let's see if he does really use an apology here for this. And what he does, I know what he says. Go ahead.
Brian, what is Joe Rogan now saying?
He is now apologizing, and we're going to find out if that's enough for Spotify, the company that has an exclusive distribution deal with him. Jim, this is all coming to light because of the recent controversy about anti-vaccine rhetoric on Rogan's podcast. Some artists decided to quit the service. One of them, India Ari, pointed out this video, this compilation video, and pointed out that the language Rogan has used around race in the past is just as, or maybe even more problematic than his rhetoric about vaccines. We know Rogan's show is known for its fresh and frank and unvarnished conversations. That's why his fans like the show. But this compilation, this use of the N-word so many times in the past may be too much even for some of his defenders to bear. But here is, in Rogan's own words, part of his apology today.
I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out that's a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's made of clips taken out of context of me of 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together, and it looks horrible, even to me. Now, I know that to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N-word, I would just say the word. I never used it to be racist because I'm not racist, but whenever you're in a situation where you have to say, I'm not racist, you f***ed up. And I clearly have f***ed up.
Okay, let's go back to
Where do you even
screen,
start
Dave.
with that?
Okay. So now, finally, Joe Rogan is kind of
Did what? He got on the air, and this is what I got out of it. Okay. He said, basically, I was wrong. I used the N-word. Now, notice now he's using the N-word. Do you really think he used the N-word before? Of course he didn't. He used a word that I choose not to use that rhymes with bigger and with an N on it, or in front of it, the place to be. Now, my question is, why now? Well, because he got caught on it, correct? He wouldn't be apologizing if he weren't caught on it. He thought it was okay. You don't apologize unless you're caught, unless you really feel you made a mistake. Now, the next thing is, I love this. Everybody's out of context. In what sense was it out of context? No, it wasn't out of context. It was just 12 times you said it. Nobody in their right mind is going to think you said it 12 times in a row, right? It's not out of context. Out of context is made up, or the context says what's around it. Well, what was around it was you saying N-word. Now, why did he say it? There's only two reasons. He said, I'm not a racist. Do you know any not racists who use that word? I don't. I will tell you one. I take that back. Mark Twain used it, but he used it in a different vernacular in a different time. And that's a controversial book, but that we can talk, that's for another day. No, if you use that word, you are steeped in racism because it means that you believe that word is belittling, and we're not going to get into the argument of why do black people use it. I'm talking about any white person who uses that. At that moment, there's no way to say anything other than you're racist. Now, have I used that word? Of course, coming from where I do, right? Have I used it recently? No. Have I ever used it in public? No. And basically, I think I might even told you one time, I said, I'm not a racist, and I'm not. I said, but I will know I am prejudiced, as we all are, and some of that comes from my past. I know that I would be completely without prejudice someday if a black person pulled in front of me and almost killed me. And I just said, hey, that person, but usually I don't, I throw some kind of word, that black person, which makes no difference, right? I mean, but all of us have that to a certain extent. And notice, again, in his apology, I fucked up, beep, gets it out. that was just Joe Rogan posturing again for his audience. Like, don't worry, guys, don't worry. You know, I got this under control. Yeah, I'll apologize for that, but I can still get the F on here.
Well, he's sweating it out. He just wanted to be taken off of Spotify because it's like being taken off of Twitter.
Let's go with that now. Let's go with the whole Rogan Spotify. Are you aware of what his contract consists of? How much money they gave him?
I don't listen to Spotify. $70 million or something. I don't know.
You're short by $30 million. They gave him $100 million.
It's like a Howard Stern deal with Sirius.
Correct. He is. That's a very apt description. He is to podcasting right now what Howard Stern was to radio, except he doesn't have 1 ounce of the talent that Howard Stern has. Joe Rogan was a bad comedian. He was the host of Fear Factor, which was a horrible show. And so now he runs with this. So his other non-apology, what he does, and this again, we're back, kind of circling back.
Some of these comedians are just, who's the other one that he's a pain in the ass? I keep thinking of his name, Jimmy Dore. I'm just, he's not careful with his facts.
Dennis Miller went south for a while.
Dennis Miller, right?
Now, the question really that Joe Rogan has answered is, what will Joe Rogan do for $100 million? He'll do whatever it takes to get $100 million. Now, why did Spotify give him $100 million? It's very simple. They wanted to move into the podcasting market. Someday, in the near future, podcasting will replace all radio except like Sirius XM, right? That kind of thing where it's satellite radio. It'll replace, because you could do it out of your home. You can get hot. YouTube is a way. What we do is, what do you call it? Video podcasting or webcasting. That's the wave. But Spotify wanted to catch the wave, and they looked at this and they said it's worth. Now, is it worth $100 million? Yeah. Or they wouldn't have given it. They're not in the habit of giving away money, right? But I think what they didn't anticipate and should have. Do you know how much roughly? Okay, so Rogan gets $100 million for spouting off what he does in untruths. Do you know how much a performer gets?
He basically gets $100 million for bullshitting.
Right. Do you know what a performer gets for a song that's played on Spotify?
For each time it's played, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. $30.
A fraction of a penny.
Wow.
So, obviously, this is not something that was, suddenly came out. Artists have been doing this for a while. Now, I liked what this one writer said. It was a great line. I wish I could have written it. They said, if you were to ask anybody alive in the late 60s or early 70s, what rocker would start a controversy 50 years later, or take a principled stand 50 years later, it would be Neil Young. This is not the first time. Neil Young wrote Ohio. He came out when MTV was first out and came with This Note's for You, which attacked them for shilling. He doesn't shill. He comes out and he does that. Now, look what happened after. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned here. Neil Young is followed by Joni Mitchell, right? Joni Mitchell's next. Now, Joni Mitchell and Neil Young, Joni kind of was somewhat intimate with all of Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, but she and Neil were a couple. And Joni, again, very principled person, will not perform again. I mean, she's not physically capable of performing, but she did the right thing and pulls it. Then you've got, who was up next? Niels Lofgren of E Street, the guitar player for Bruce Springsteen, E Street Band. Now, people don't know this. He has played with Neil. They met here when Niels was 16, and Young brought him out to play with Crazy Horse. So they've been together how long? Since the 70s. And then that was followed in order by, I don't know if in order, but Graham Nash. Don't fall asleep, Bri. Graham Nash and David Crosby. Now, if you know anything about Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young,
he's got three things going on at once. He's thinking this, and this.
They don't agree. They don't agree on anything. They get together and they hate one another. And basically, Neil and David had a falling out because David said that Neil Young, for leaving his wife Peggy, was like terrible. And he picked up with Daryl Hannah. Well, who's David Crosby to say that? But he did. But now suddenly they're back. So maybe the good thing is out of this, we'll get a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young reunion album. Although I wouldn't hold my breath.
Dave, I wanted to show you this real quick one with the asshole from our area, and that would
Van
be
Drew?
this. Yeah, he's
okay. Go ahead.
And this is a letter I got today, but I wanted you to see. Now let's forget even about what he says. Just let's look at where he says Chinese Communist Party or Chinese here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you blow it up a little bit? I can't.
Absolutely. Okay.
There we go.
So he's basically going against the House. He voted against the House Democrats. Okay. So as the bill's currently written, the bill will not have America competing with China. Instead of America will be conceding to China. So everything's about China here.
Is he talking about? I'm sorry.
China.
With Van Drew, I'm sorry. It's a different spelling. I wasn't sure if he was talking about China, the country, or China, the ex-professional wrestler. But I see it's with an I, so he's talking about
But look
China,
at this.
the country.
He's got Chinese Communist Party everywhere. And it's just like pure McCarthyism, you know? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, of course it is, Brian.
You know, and right to the bottom of the page, it keeps saying Chinese Communist Party.
It would be interesting if all of our listener viewers would send in a list, and we could do a massive list of trigger words. And I don't like that term, so we're not going to use trigger words. But we're going to use words that get a rise out of Americans who aren't smart enough to understand the world.
They don't understand anything. The goddamn Republicans, they're playing this bullshit, Dave, where the governors are saying, or the senators are saying that, you know, the money they're getting from the government, as if it's something they did, and they voted against the fucking bill.
Well, that's been all along. Look, hypocrisy. Any person can demonstrate hypocrisy. Democrat, independent. Only dead people can't demonstrate hypocrisy. But the Republicans have brought it to a new art.
Right.
And that's part of it.
That's the
In other words, if you vote against something and it passes and it actually benefits and you take credit for it, and Van Drew is not the first to do that. But that word Chinese, okay? Would you agree? I'll just do a series of questions. Would you agree that China is our rival?
It's an economic rival. I don't.
All you need to do, that's it. I don't care. That's it. I agree. I don't have to go more. Now.
But that's supposed to be okay in a
I know,
free
but what I'm
market
saying
world.
it is, but it's not in the Trumpublican world. What did he call the virus, Brian?
Chinese virus or China virus? I think
China
virus.
China. That's what
China
virus. China virus.
China.
So China is a code word for all that's bad. I liked your term McCarthyism because when I was growing up, communism was such a word, and he's got that in there. Now China,
it's all over the place.
China is honestly, it's not communist anymore. It's what America will look like if we lose democracy. That's what it is. That's all it is. Was it communist? Yes. Now it's really not, but it is. But it's
now, people like you and me will be going to the gulags.
And well, same thing with your buddy Putin in Russia. That's not really communist anymore per se. The way
no, it's not. It's autocratic.
And of course, what it is, it's really bad.
But the former communists are the ones who are controlling it.
Well, yeah,
or some of them, I should say.
And the interesting thing is, Brian, I always defer to you, but from people I've talked to who are aware of China, spent time there, same in Russia, that of course communism. The problem with communism is it was supposed to be all animals are created equal, and it never was that way. The party leaders lived high in the hog the whole time. And all they were able to do now is, kind of justify it. I read again, we don't know, article the other day which many of us believe is true, that Vladimir Putin is the richest man in the world. That would make sense to me.
Right.
Certainly. But yeah, Van Drew and they've got these words. Now, I don't see China bombing us. Okay, I don't. Now that doesn't mean it won't happen, but I do see us in an economic war. Just one little. I mean, you could go forever, but I'm going to do this. I was amazed during the early days of the pandemic to find out, and I've said it before in the show, but this is the one that sticks with me. We did not manufacture one tube in America for ventilators, not one. Why do you think there's a chip shortage right now? Where are they made? China. And you look at so much of that. Now, yes, it's true. They are buying a lot of American property in American business, because that's whether they want to take us down. They do want to become the world's leading economic partner. I don't think they really would want to destroy us. They'd want to, move above us because we're a market for them, right? But of course, you have to think that's sophisticated through. Same thing as Russia. I don't see Russia attacking us, right? I don't. It could happen. Of course it could. But I think Putin will push and push and push. And
if there were a time to attack us, it might be now because we're so split. Because there'd be some people that would fight with the Russians.
Well, that was something I was going to say earlier. I like science fiction a lot, and I don't know, you don't, and that's fine. But I remember the show V. I don't know anybody out there who watched that. It actually ran a couple years. It was a show. It was like a mini series. And
I remember the
and basically,
teasers,
basically the V was and what it really was kind of using the Nazi experience, right, as the aliens coming in, and you had a hell of a lot of collaborators. And I believe today that if America were attacked by aliens, and Donald Trump thought he'd do better with the aliens until they ate him, because he's a big meal, right? If you can eat somebody, that we would do that. Yeah. So I don't see, that's the idea that we're supposed to come together. I guess the last time America came together, right, 9/11, for that week, I think every American was trying to decide, and then some of us pulled back and said, wait a minute. Why were we there in the first place? I was talking tonight, or this afternoon, I went out to lunch with him. Very interesting guy who was he's black ops now, career. He actually, Brian, the most interesting thing we talked about, he was an urban teacher at one point in special ed. So we talked about, I kind of like that show, especially when they turned into the lizards, but that's just me. The idea we were talking about, and he, and of course he's very learned in the terms he did 2 tours in Afghanistan, and now that he's black ops, like for a private concern, we couldn't go into a lot of that, but he'd just been in Korea training people and et cetera, et cetera. But the idea of it is, this is somebody, and he said, which I think is true, he said, nobody right now is in position to do anything really to the United States except the United States itself. We will be destroyed. Lincoln is famous for saying that. The only way I could, whether he said it or not, I don't know, it's quoted, the only way, basically paraphrasing, the only way America can be destroyed is it destroys itself. Benjamin Franklin, a woman once asked him, what kind of country do we have, Ben? And again, whether it's true or not, it's quoted. You have a republic, ma'am, if you can keep it. And so I worry more. Mr. Van Drew appears to have no problem being we should show clips from it one night. Because it really is, again, if you like science fiction, it was really a very interesting show, kind of ahead of its time. Special effects a little cheesy today, but it was in the, I don't even remember, 70s, I think. Or early 80s, late 70s. Anyway, back to Mr. Van Drew. Well, what's Mr. Van Drew done? Let's look at his record. Was a Democrat, correct?
Correct.
Decided to throw his lot in with Trump.
Correct.
Switched the party and went down and literally and figuratively kissed the ring of Donald Trump.
Correct.
Okay. So you can say, not that anybody switches parties, but certainly the only way you'd have to ask him is, why did you spend all those years as a Democrat and now suddenly going to be a Republican? And the reason is I lived in a normally Republican district that one congressman, Bill Hughes, held for a long time. If you go back and track the 2nd Congressional District where we live, there's only been one Democrat in history who held that position. I don't know if you know that. Bill Hughes. He came in after Watergate. He was a pretty decent guy, and he just stayed there until he retired. Van Drew capitalized on that, comes from the shore where there are more votes on the Cape May shore than there are on Cumberland. Won it, and then decided, well, I guess maybe I better switch, right? So he's just, again, he's an opportunist. But he doesn't have anything to run on, so what does he do? Let's make China the enemy, right?
Right.
That's what you do. You always create an other. Who was the best at that of all time? Well, I don't know. I don't know what Genghis Khan did. I don't know what, Xerxes the Persian emperor did. But I know what Adolf Hitler did. And once you start talking about the other, Brian, you begin to make them less than human. And once they're less than human, anything goes, right? So the Chinese are pretty good because, but here's the danger with that. We live in an international conclave here of 12 stories, 2 towers. So I don't know how many parts here. We have not every country, but we certainly have every continent with the exception of Antarctica lives here. You get on, you hear all kinds of language. We have African. One of the large numbers are Chinese students. As you begin making China the enemy, whose violence really has jumped is violence against Asian Americans. And Jeff Andrew and others don't help. Because if they can make the people mad or fearful, fear is a wonderful motivator if you're stupid. Because fear comes with ignorance. And you've said it, ignorance is fatal. Well, ignorance with fear is even more fatal, not because at that point you begin to act out, right? You begin to think whether your buddy there with the gun out in Wisconsin or Jeff Andrew. And I think tonight, if there was not a theme, but if there's something, it's about time, and I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime. It's time that politicians begin, or even any people in authority. Unfortunately, the Kardashians, or unfortunately, we have a country where the Kardashians are people in authority, has a responsibility, besides making money, to realize that whatever they say, Joe Rogan has an impact over and above. Joe Rogan is a nobody, but he's $100 million nobody. And people are convinced that he is some type of guru. We didn't have time tonight, so I'm saving it for next week. Nobody read anything about this. The saddest, most pathetic story, the scariest was what, to me, this week was what the Republican National Committee did. Well, yeah, scariest, but also the one that, okay, now the gloves, there's no pretense. But Atlantic Magazine did a story on the JFK conspiracy people who are still in Dallas. And it was really the best profile I've seen on their leader. And, we used to be able to say, okay, they're kooks, they're nuts, they're this. They're the Republican Party. Okay, it's the same thing. If you're following Jim Jones, the only difference was God was wrapped up in that, right? Than Donald Trump. So a lot of times I think what Trump is a master of being a con man, which is interesting. He doesn't use religion, but he does. Okay, remember when he took that walk across to the church, but thank God he is stupid. In not respect, we don't know if he's always stupid. He has the Bible right in his hand, and he has the Bible upside down. And he said it was his White House Bible. Well, I think if it were your White House Bible, 2 things would happen. One, would you know the upside down to it? You wouldn't turn it that way. And the other is, I'd hope you read it sometime. And I don't know there's ever been anyone, I know this for a fact, there's never been any president of the United States, no matter what they professed as their religion, who was less Christian than Donald Trump. We know that. So how does he get this support? How does Jeff Van Drew get the support of religion? How does Marcia Taylor Greene? How does Paul Ryan, the ex whose name came up? Because the evangelical, right, white Christian church is more concerned with the other than they are with being Christian. So therefore, they're there. The other thing that's interesting this week that I saw, you're familiar with Ayn Rand, right? The writer?
Ayn Rand, yes.
Yeah. And you've got Atlas Shrugged and Fountainhead, 2 of the most influential books. Unfortunately, basically what she says, get yours and forget everybody else.
Right.
I was thinking tonight, Mr. Ryan, we know
and
for
a romantic view of that point.
Oh, yeah. Well, what happened was Mr. Ryan had everybody who, when he were hired, the first thing he would give them was a copy of Miss Rand's book to read. Donald Trump is alleged to have read 2 books in his lifetime that he didn't have his name on One is Mein Kampf. We don't know whether that's true or not. There's been reports that he had. I don't believe that. I mean, he had it by his bedstand maybe, but I'm thinking about it. And he says that Ayn Rand is his favorite writer. Newt Gingrich, Anne Ryan. The list goes on. And the problem is, when I start talking about the common good, there is no, what would you call it, political philosopher. I mean, she gets credit for writing because she wrote novels, but they were polemic, political diatribes. Cares less about the common good. So if you're that fan, you don't care about the common good, because her basic thing is the individual has a duty to himself and to society to raise up. So we have where we are. And I think tonight, as far as I'm concerned, the Civil War that we're in, and I believe we're in one, took another step forward when the Republican National Committee used the quote that we've been saying all night, legitimate political discourse. Right. That was not, it's now. Do we fear George Orwell's 1984? I think all of us who've read it have some concerns about that. Do we fear Brave New World? I think all of us that read that. Do we fear Handmaid's Tale? I think all of us that read it. Do we fear Fahrenheit 451? We didn't even get to book banning. We'll do that next week, which is a nationwide scourge right now. We're going to get them all at once. They've taken everything. They've taken the worst of all those books. I mean, you don't even get the drugs that you got, the Soma in Brave New World. At least that was kind of cool. So we have the worst of that. And what I find, it's the same as when I left education as a national consultant. Like I said, I was at the highest point. I would be also the lowest person in the business. I mean, not up there. There was nothing I could do about urban education. It was only going to get worse. And I tell you, that's not a confession, but I did something this week, Brian, that I didn't think I would ever do on this planet. Our grandchildren are in dispute with the Tuskegee school system, right. And I'm not going to bore people with the details. It's basically this: the Tuscaloosa school system doesn't know anything about Australia, and they will not recognize the 2 years they spent in Australia. Think about that, right?
Oh my!
So, again, I'm not bragging about my grandson. It's about what happened. They only give national tests every 2 years. He scored in the 99th percentile of math students, and they have him in general math here because they won't recognize that. So our son, I've been very proud of him, and my daughter-in-law, I mean, they're taking the fight to them. But Michael said the other night, they talked to the kids, and they're going to put them in private school. And I never thought that I would say this, but today I would say to anyone, if you have children, really, really look at your public schools, because again, they are a reflection.
In those red states.
It doesn't matter where, to a certain extent, because let's be honest, okay? Bridgeton, I went there, I taught there, I spent 25 years there, I mean, in that school system. But when I left, I would have to consider whether I want my grandchildren to go there. I spent 4 years working in the Washington, D.C. schools, in the worst schools. There's no way I would send my child. Unless there is the Ellington School for the Arts, and that's it. And it's that way all over the country. Now, why is that? Ask Paul Ryan. Ask the Republicans. They're the ones that didn't fund it. They're the ones that allowed this to go. And why? It's to their advantage. Think about it, Brian. Think about it. If they're going to be the party of the white, not only they know better, but what they're saying is, as long as blacks, Hispanics, immigrants, gays, whatever you want to make as the enemy, they keep them from success. The two things that will determine 2022 election, unless things change right now, are education and crime. And unfortunately, even though they're wrong, the Republicans own both those issues now. So we'll fast forward to 2024. That's it for me tonight. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We actually got to be better, Brian, or I have to be better. We talked a lot tonight. I hope we answered I didn't see too many questions up there, but I think you were pretty good in the comments.
There were not many questions, but I really didn't. I tried to tell myself not to post all the comments tonight, and I didn't. So I'm sorry if those of you are used to me posting them all. I just didn't.
Can I also make a suggestion? I mean, you and I do shows differently. On the out, can you run?
Yeah, I
you run
can
them?
do that if I can find it out today. That's
Well, just why? Just run. Don't worry about
I'll
the
try.
intro. Just run the comments. I mean, this.
The only thing is I got to keep clicking them, so I'll try that.
I mean, if that's what you want, yeah, I mean, because I think it is important.
I'll throw.
And again,
they might go quickly, folks, but I'll get them.
Yeah, you give them as much. Again, it's I know. So and everybody, again, thank you. And while I said Brian, I always, I poke fun at you because you completely blew the opening tonight.
I did, but you know what? I know exactly what it is now.
No.
I had my phone plugged into the USB hub, so it recognized it as some type of device. So I had, I share this to Facebook and to Sandy's page through my phone, and I should not have had it plugged in. And
if you would pay more, if you would pay more to get things out, you wouldn't have to do it that way. But I understand, you have to have your money for your Russian conversations, and I understand that you and Mr. Putin have some deals going. So I certainly don't want to talk about that. Brian, as always, a pleasure. As always, a pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
We'll see everybody.
I'm going to stay and watch the comments.
Okay, well, let's make sure I can get them there, okay?
I have confidence in you, Brian.
Locate file. I'll locate the file. Hold on for a few seconds, folks. I'll find something and I'll load the comments.
You're really tired because we're cutting out 13 minutes early, so that's good. I just had to point that out to people.
This will be perfect. I've had this on before, but what the hell?
Listen now and hear the sacred word of Yahweh. Yahweh will come to judge both the slow and the dead, and the quick and the living. Some of ye have been to the modern city of sin. Today's Babylon. Today's Sodom. Today's Gomorrah. That would be New York City. If you have been to New York in any of its boroughs, Yahweh says, repent now of thine evil ways, or ye shall burn in the everlasting fires down below. And ye say, well, I will put off, because Yahweh will not be here. But I say unto you, my brother, and I say unto you, my sister, who knows the hour of Yahweh? Who knows the ways of Yahweh? So what you must do is you must bend your head, get down on your knees,